welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Shaun McAndrew, Navy veteran, Vice President of Business Development for the Service Design Group, and a keynote speaker. And welcome to the show, Shaun.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here today.
You are welcome to the show, and I was trying to add something more, but I thought I will include it during the show itself because I was quite, excited to get this discussion begin rather than just, talking at my end. So, my first question to you, Shaun, is to understand you have been a Navy into the Navy at a good position, helicopter pilot and commanding officer. Also, as you commanded a helicopter squadron. From that position, about someone everybody knows about the Navy, to a position of business development officer, the service design group, to explaining everyone about what exactly this service design group is all about, what exactly is a complete offer, what how one can harden service packages. Help us understand about this transition, and in this process also help us understand what this service design group is all about, and then we'll come about hardening service packages.
You have such a small ask for me to put in such a fine thing. And so I'm like, let's unpack this a little bit. I transitioned out of the Navy, and through friends and networking is so important in a transition to get to learn different things about people. And I was introduced to the service design group. And what I found they did, it was very different and very interesting. And then there was something else that I'll say was critical to why I've been with them. I enjoyed the people. I felt I could learn from them. They knew something different than I didn't, but they also knew how to use my skills that I had from the Navy and let me explore many of the different things that I did in the Navy. I'll say a lot of the staff work that was done to actually run organizations, talk to people and converse with people, and shift that towards business development, which is talking with people and influencing them and explaining things. So some similar things that I did have to do in the Navy on a regular basis. And I will use an analogy. I'll use an architect analogy of what the service design group does. We are a business model consultancy. Very few people will ever say, whoa, we need that. And I agree. So what we do is similar to an architect where we design offers, and I'll say complete offers, holistic offers, ones that create outcomes for your customer. So would you want to DIY your home renovation? Are you just going to hire a general contractor, or might you just hire an architect or an architectural designer so everything gets laid out for you ahead of time so that you can see what you're choosing, what you're going to do, what the end result will be ahead of time? So we are, I'll say, that same thing for business models and for people who are putting something new into market. Today, with so much technology, so many products are so complex that it takes a while for your customers to be able to use them. There is some kind of an onboarding process, and there are so many features, and it's packed with power, whatever it may be. And so a lot of times your customers can't use what you give them right out of the box. There's some help that's designed. Well, what I found is most companies with those technical products, they create the product, it's awesome, it's whiz bang, it's cool, but then they put the services that are needed to make it really useful to their customers as an afterthought or an ad hoc add-on. And so it feels very disjointed for the customer, very much so, but also even for the company, where they are really not seeing the adoption and the renewals that they really should with the quality that they're putting out. So what we help them do is through an innovation process is bring a group of, I'll say, cross-functional members into a small team, 8 to 10 people, who have different voices of the customer from their company, and put them together in workshops and then be able to help them uncover different ideas of what could really be unique and interesting and innovative that they can offer to their customer in a complete offer that gets the customer a business outcome. One of the challenges in B2B is personas versus jobs to do. If you are selling to a business, you are not truly selling to one person. Yes, a business is an entity, but it doesn't have a single persona. It has lots of personas. How many are actually in the company? So when you are talking about an outcome, B2B providers need to look at, okay, what are the jobs to be done that my customer has that I do better than they ever will be able to? And so if you can take something off of somebody's plate and do it better, more efficiency, and better results, and prove it to them, that's an outcome that they will come back to again and again and again. And that's what a complete offer does. It helps your company create that offer that your customers will want again and again and again because you have taken something off their plate. It's that simple.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's make it more simple for the audience to understand it. When we say uh, something like this service design group, then who are the customers for it, and who are your customers' customers? How does this process begin? What is the way one can get? Why I'm asking this is a lot of people uh, already try to give out the best offers, and this is in terms of a simple layman's language. How can they make their offers better? Is this what we are talking about? Is this what your company does? Then how, if that is correct, then how does one get started? Say a company in the US, small business in the US, mid-sized business in the US, or even one from India wants to know more about this, wants to engage with your firm professionally. Then what should they expect? What is the way that it all gets started?
Well, like most things, everything starts with a conversation. One with an architect, you actually have to talk to the customer to see what their needs are before I can say, hey, here's exactly how we can help. But I will say there's one thing that we have found that a lot of companies, I'll say especially mid-market business-to-business companies, technology, biotechnology, or very product-centric, where they start is there's one or two people who actually believe that they can actually get more revenue through services or through an outcome-based mindset, but they don't have a lot of believers and they don't have a lot of support. So what we have created is we've created an innovation workshop that actually creates alignment and a decision for people that I'll say we take them on a short journey. It's a 2 to 4 hour workshop depending upon the needs of the company, where we take a team, not normally an executive leadership team, through an experience of why complete offers and working these together and looking towards at least moving your company towards outcome-based offers in the business-to-business world will actually end up making you more money, but it will also just make it easier to service your customers, in the long run. So one of the things that people will have the hesitancy is they're busy. People are doing their jobs, and creating something new requires something extra. And more often than not, when something comes up from on high, it's just something added to an already overfull plate. And it's one where it looks like a great idea, but again, it doesn't have that real support. It has a mandate, but it doesn't have support. So that's where this workshop is very, very powerful. And the easiest thing to do to start the conversation is reach out to me on LinkedIn. There are not many Shaun McAndrews on LinkedIn, or you can email me at shaun@theservicedesigngroup.com altogether to have this conversation, to be able to start talking with us. Now, what do we really, when we start getting into the meat of helping a company, what we do, and again, it depends. I'll say there's two predominant tracks. One is you have an offer, or you have a new offer that you want to put into market, or you've gone to market and it's gone less than well. And it's not a marketing issue. It is not a sales issue. It's really what you are actually offering. You are looked at as a commodity and you're competing at that value stack of a commodity instead of a true value proposition that makes that outcome that's believable, and it makes your customer's life better. Those two things. And so our first process, we call it the big picture, because it is a way to take a look at that whole offer holistically, as a true business model, and being able to tweak and see all the different components to it to make business decisions on whether you're going to go in which direction on what you're going to offer. So it's a tool to actually make further investment decisions for companies, as well as a roadmap on how to do it. So that's actually pretty powerful. Another service that we provide is portfolio rationalization, or service portfolio rationalization. Because of the ad hoc nature that people have done, where they've put things in, and just slapped on services over time, they have this bloated portfolio that's very difficult to manage. Well, we take them in, and we have done this with companies where we have taken what they presumed as 100 to 150 and rationalized it down to 5 to 10, because realistically, they weren't true services. And I should actually give a definition of services. It's probably a little late, but this may help, galvanize people to understand why I talk about services, because that has meaning. People think of services very differently. For me, a service is a job to be done on behalf of your customer that you do at a better level of expertise than your customers can, and you charge for it. So that's the other, I'll say, difference is our service is something you have to charge for. Otherwise, it's not truly it's not part of your offer. Did I answer? I'm thinking there's something that I missed in your question that I have failed to answer. So help me. What have I missed?
No, you have answered. You have answered. The rest of it I will ask right now. The rest of it I will ask it. And my question is to understand, is it only about B2B that you create these complete offers, or is it also about B2C companies? How does that work, or is it only about B2B?
And what I will say is while I know our process can, and we have done a few items with B2C, we actually prefer to work with B2B companies. And we work with incubators and startups to be able to get, especially when they have something brand new to the world to come in. They have a tendency to think they're just going to be able to put it into market as a commodity and people will just come over. That is not the case. And then the next item is in that mid-market B2B with the, about 500 million to 2 billion in revenue as a business or as a business unit is who we can help. Some of our customers and past customers are Dawn Foods, Johnson HVAC, Novozymes, Generac, Department of Veteran Affairs, Duke Energy. So we have a fairly broad portfolio of companies that we've helped, including some small ones like Alonia. And it has been a lot of fun. And I will say the common thing that I see is most groups that we start working with start with disbelief. And so I think your listeners are going to be like, oh, this sounds too good to be true. And that's where most companies start. There's a lot of hesitation and disbelief that something new can happen. But as they go through some of our workshops, it actually changes. It changes from disbelief to hope, to excitement, to a way forward. And that, I will say, is truly magical when we get to work with companies. And again, I would be the skeptical one in the audience listening to this saying, no, it's too good to be true.
Right.
Our results stand for something else.
Right, Ron. So let me understand now about the customer experience, because if it's more about B2B, and then you, even if you design the best offer for your customer, who presents it again to their customer, but their service is not good. How do you analyze that of the offer is how that offer is being executed on the ground? Because you may give a very good offer, but the person who is taking your services must be a lousy customer service provider. And it is a problem nowadays with a lot of companies. So how do you assess, how do you get that data, whether there is a problem with the offer or whether there is a problem with the service provider itself? Because at the end of the day, the guy will come and tell you, listen, you said it's a complete offer. For me, it was a complete disaster. How does that work?
Oh, I love that. Well, first of all, there is no such thing as from paper to launch. All right. We use with service design and a service design approach, it's holistic. There's prototypes, it's iterative. So you start testing with the smallest offer that you can. It may be an MVP, it may not be an MVP even yet. And you normally, most B2B companies, they have a preferred customer they have a great relationship with that you normally say, okay, basically, I'm going to prototype this offer, and you work hand in hand. And one of the things that we do, we call them CX checks, which is customer experience checks. So when you are working with us and we are helping you create and develop and get that complete offer actually through a commercial launch, is in the prototyping phase, we do CX checks on behalf of our clients so that we actually can get that feedback to what you're talking about. Because what you do not want to do is you don't want to go from paper to commercial launch and assume. That's bad. And so you want to take it in a step-by-step basis and do the testing that you need to actually really create the outcome. Almost no one I know creates anything the first time and it's a 100% perfect thing. You have to test it with other people. There are things you missed. You need to get feedback and do the improvements. So it's not a definitive step one. And that's the other thing with services is we help companies create that feedback loop, because services need to be continually updated, because the jobs to be done tend to evolve as technology and industries move. So they have to have a continuous feedback loop. And I'll say CX, I look at CX in two different levels. There's the tactical CX, which is normally handled by a department, maybe even a person that is responsible, that has that one customer experience of whoever is the primary touch point. But then I look at CX. CX is strategic and actually must be implemented across the company, especially in B2B. Because everybody that is in the business in B2B is actually part of the customer experience. It's part of the outcome. So what you are developing, even if you don't touch the customer directly, it eventually will. So having that as a strategic mindset across the company of delivering an outcome is also something that we help our clients build as part of their culture. And we build it into the offer to show how everyone contributes to the value proposition, which is the value proposition is part of the customer experience in mass. And so again, You don't want it to tank. You don't want it to be a failure. Or when you fail, you want to know that early and make adjustments. You don't want to invest all of the money and all of the time and then have something, flop on you. You should fail fast and forward. It's that simple.
Right, right, Sean. There is much to learn on this, and I'm sure as time goes by, you will, there will be more understanding of such new approaches, and more companies will be able to take benefit for such complete offers and uh, get done with much more innovation in their companies. One thing I wanted to understand from you, Sean, that you have been in the Navy, commanded a helicopter squadron that was the most effective production squadron in the Navy, and then you trained, helped develop leadership skills in thousands of future officers.
Mhm.
When you look at, so you know about leadership, and even though it's in a different environment, when you are into a business environment, the big question today in the business world is about the quality of leadership. And as you interact more and more with people in the civilian domain, with the business domain, you see a lot of people. What is your understanding of the business leadership that you are interacting with, seeing? Because coming from a different line, your observation is much, much more different than anyone else who is coming from the same line. What is your, should we be hopeful about the business leadership? Because there have been so many questions about the great resignation, the quiet quitting, and all that. Or do you think that there has to be a stronger approach to find some good quality business leaders, so that there is lot less toxicity in workplaces and we have better workplaces? I want to, and especially this impacts a lot of women, so I want to understand your keen understanding of the situation on the ground on the business leadership front.
Well, what I found is one, people, and the Navy is definitely a cross section of the American society, and draws from all different economic backgrounds. And so I did get to see, I'll say, a lot of different kinds of people. And so when I look at the business world, and these are good people, they really want to do right. Um, there are bad apples. There are bad apples everywhere. I'm not going to talk about that because I think most people are really trying to do their best, and they're trying to do the best that they can in the moment that they are. It's that simple. Now, what is, I'll say, the largest difference between leadership in the Navy and leadership in business? The Navy does invest in its people to teach them and train them about leadership. That's A. The second is, um, allowing them to fail and learn from that. There's a lot more, I'll say, mentoring and coaching that is informal, as well as by the hierarchical nature of the Navy, and of the armed services. That leadership, it's easier to see the structures, and know the expectations. A lot of challenges I see businesses have, and especially new managers, young leaders, and I don't mean young as in age, I mean young as in experience. Uh, they do not, um, they haven't been able to experiment. They haven't necessarily had good examples. And they're also not given the decision space to make some mistakes with a little bit of a safety net. So the armed services, I found, are truly a leadership laboratory that hones that in order to get tasks done. Businesses want tasks done, and they want leadership to come in. So it's a matter of what is the priority. Is it right or wrong? I'm not going, it's different, and it needs to be different because the outcome that both organizations are looking for are vastly different. So there's a reason why a lot of businesses, they, if they don't make revenue, they don't make profit, they can't pay the employees. That's just a fact. that is not a concern that most military officers or enlisted ever think about because it is taxpayer funded. So it allows us a different flexibility. How do you bridge that process? One of the great things with the Navy is, and also something I railed against, is there's a lot of structure and process in how things get done. So that lets you know what the expectations are. If you can let people know what your expectations are and be, I'll say, mostly consistent with that time and time again, you give them some safety for them to become innovative and more productive because you're giving them the security of knowing that they are valued as a person. And I think leadership comes down to ensuring people are valued for who they are and helping them become the best person they can be. And when they start, if you can get them to believe in themselves and believe in the team, there's almost nothing that team can accomplish.
Wonderful, wonderful. You have explained it very, very well, putting both sides of the both sides perspective in a very nice manner. And I also have learned a few things while you were explaining this, and I'm sure a lot of people will get to understand. It's about the revenues. When you are in the armed forces, you don't have to worry about the revenues in that sense. And when you are business, everyone has to be worried about that. Otherwise, the business will close, and perhaps that leads to a lot of not much room for making mistakes. Be that as it may, as we continue to grow in business and new things are coming up, many people would like to understand more about you, about the service design group, about the service design process. So what's the best way to for them to connect with you, and also if they want to engage with your company professionally?
Thank you very much. I will say you have a global audience, which I absolutely love. So the easiest way is connect with me on LinkedIn. And then the second is email me at Shaun at the Service Design Group, altogether, no dots, .com. So either way, you would be able to reach me either through LinkedIn or through my email. And I look forward to connecting with them. Would absolutely love to talk to them about a workshop. And if they mention KAJ, I will give them a 10% discount off of the initial workshop that I spoke about that creates alignment with leadership.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that indeed. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
All right. Thank you so